Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. This series I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, That Darn Kitty.
Dorkus and I are sharing our experience reading The Way of Kings for the first time. Each episode we will summarize what we've read and discuss the experience along the way.
This is Storming the Archives, The Way of Kings, and today we discuss Chapter 17.
Chapter 17!
Chapter 17, A Bloody Red Sunset. Bridge leader Kaladin meets with an apothecary. Syl awes in wonder at the apothecary's advanced age. Kaladin reflects on his father's lessons about men who walk the line between herbalists and surgeons. The apothecary inquires what Kaladin is looking for, offering him wards or potions. When Syl hears the man has a potion that could make a young girl regard Kaladin with favor, she innocently comments that he should give the potion to Gaz. Kaladin is aware of the kinds of tricks, potions, and tinctures apothecaries purport to sell. Regardless, Kaladin knows what he came to buy. He asks for bandages, lister's oil or knobweed sap, and a needle and gut. When the apothecary reacts in surprise, Kaladin reveals himself to be the son of a surgeon. The apothecary moves behind the counter. Kaladin notes that while the man's age hadn't changed, he suddenly doesn't seem quite as frail. Kaladin has to go to the apothecary for supplies. He had been turned away by the surgeon's hall. The supplies there are for soldiers, not bridgemen. Syl makes another comment about the man's age, causing Kaladin to note Syl is growing to understand abstract thought very quickly. The apothecary offers Kaladin a much cheaper but foul-smelling substance instead of lister's oil. Kaladin is shocked by the prices of the items he had requested. The apothecary notes how quickly surgeons go through supplies, to which Kaladin responds with one of his father's sayings. "You can't put a price on a person's life." His father had never charged for his services. The apothecary is skeptical at the dun spheres Kaladin hands him, but confirmed they are in fact genuine spheres. Kaladin is surprised considering they had been glowing that morning, but writes it off as Gaz having given him rundown spheres. One of the spheres still glows, so Kaladin asks that he keep it to use as a light source. The apothecary switches out the glowing sphere for a dun sphere. Kaladin leaves the apothecary with his purchased items. Kaladin spent some time educating himself on why things are as they are around the war camp. He's learned more about the chrysalises and the competition between the high princes. There are over 100,000 troops in the various Alethi camps, not including civilians. Kaladin makes his way through one of the many shantytowns that built itself up around the war camps. He shakes his head.
What?
I hadn't expected there to be so much discord among the camps here. I thought it would all be one king's army, unified.
People are discord.
What does that mean?
You all act differently and think differently. Nothing else is like that. Animals act alike, and all spren are, in a sense, virtually the same individual. There's harmony in that, but not in you. It seems that no two of you can agree on anything. All the world does as it is supposed to, except for humans. Maybe that's why you so often want to kill each other.
But not all windspren act alike. You're proof of that.
I know. Maybe now you can see why it bothers me so.
Kaladin gets back to the camp, thinking how interesting it would be to see soul casting in person. Unfortunately, the Ardents keep the holy rite under strict guard. The first afternoon bell rings, but before Kaladin can do anything, a horn sounds in the air, first once, then twice, signaling a battle. Kaladin shouts for the bridgemen to line up. Some of the men line up, while others run to grab their vests. Everyone takes their proper place in line. Anyone who tries to cut the line to a better spot usually ends up being forced into a worse one. The bridge leader is the exception to this rule. Although there are no good spots, Kaladin gets the optimal spot. Kaladin gives the order to lift, and the bridge crew begins their journey to their destination. Bridge crews try to move quickly, hoping to beat the Parshendi to the location and therefore avoiding the arrows altogether. As they travel, Kaladin wonders how the Parshendi managed to destroy a bridge during the high storm. He still finds the concept of fighting Parshmen incongruent. The bridge crews take an opportunity to rest, but while everyone collapses to the ground, Kaladin remains standing. A crossing soldier makes a rude comment. "Oh, little bridgeman! Curious at what a real soldier looks like?" How do you treat your spear and shield, squad leader? The soldier frowns. This is my bridge. It is my weapon. The only one allowed to me. Treat her well. A second soldier insults Kaladin, but what Cal said seems to have an effect on the first. Sadeas crosses the bridge. Kaladin forgets to bow, but the offense goes unnoticed. Kaladin hates Sadeas more than most Light Eyes for the way he treats the bridgemen. After more travel, Gaz calls for the reverse runners. The assault is near. The bridgemen know what's coming. The bridgemen leave a space for Kaladin at the back. He feels tremendous fatigue. He regrets having chosen to stand. Kaladin looks over the despondent bridge crew. He reminds himself that they are his men, and they need him to lead them whether they realize it or not. Kaladin pulls himself out of line and walks up to the death point, the most dangerous spot, front and center. He orders Rock to the back. Rock is confused. No one jumps to the front of the line. Kaladin insists that because he is the bridge leader, it's his privilege to run at the front. He takes his place, then encourages the group to get the bridge placed as quickly as possible. On Gaz's command, they run. As the Parshendi loose their arrows at Bridge 4, Kaladin shouts out his brother's name, though he's uncertain why. As he does so, he feels a surge of unexpected strength. Fellow bridgemen begin to fall. The Parshendi archers hesitate for an unknown reason. The brief respite grants the bridge crew a few precious moments to place the bridge and get to safety. Kaladin is hit, though the wound is not fatal. While soldiers cross the bridge, Kaladin sets about trying to rescue fallen bridgemen, his father's lessons echoing in his head. As Kaladin drags bridgemen to a place of safety, he notes that he's seen 29 bridgemen, the dead included among them. 5 were missing. He spots one, Dabid, but he's too weak to lift him. Rock, calling Kaladin crazy, decides to help lift Dabid and bring him to safety. Rock agrees to go look for the remaining survivors. Kaladin immediately begins helping the wounded. He orders the other bridge crewmen to help, to find a knife and start a fire so he can cauterize the wounds, and to fetch rock buds. One of the injured, Gadol, spasms. Then he speaks. They break the land itself. They want it, but in their rage they will destroy it, like the jealous man burns his rich things rather than let them be taken by his enemies. They come. Then he dies. The pain of losing someone has not dulled. Kaladin continues doing what he can for the injured, repeating the phrase, "You will not die." Teft hands Kaladin a water gourd, but when Kaladin goes to clean another's wound, Teft insists that Kaladin drink it himself. Teft asks how he knows the things he knows, to which Kaladin responds that he wasn't always a slave. Rock insists that he won't make a difference. Wounded who can't walk are to be left behind. Kaladin says he will handle Gaz, then orders the knife be returned to the body it was found on. He doesn't want to be accused of stealing. After a long battle, Kaladin finds Gaz and expresses his intention to bring his wounded with him. Gaz reminds Kaladin that it's standing orders not to bring the disabled back. It's not his choice. Kaladin insists again, and though Gaz invokes Bright Lord Lamaril's orders, Kaladin disregards the issue. Lamaril will likely go on ahead so as to not be late for the victory feast. If Gaz orders Bridge 4 to be the last to return, staying for the wounded soldiers, they'd be able to efficiently sneak their wounded back as well. Kaladin hands Gaz his last clear mark. When Gaz responds, Kaladin threatens to kill him if he doesn't cooperate. Gaz complains about being given a dun sphere. Kaladin frowns, certain it had glowed before the bridge run. Kaladin blames Gaz for his giving him the empty sphere, but Gaz insists it was newly infused, straight from Sadeas's treasurer. Kaladin turns and leaves, Gaz calling after him, asking why he cares, to which Kaladin responds that they are his men.
I don't trust him. He could just say you threatened him and send men to arrest you.
Maybe he will. I guess I just have to count on him wanting more of my bribes.
Spheres. That doesn't seem like much to count on.
Maybe. Maybe not. I've seen the way he looks at them. He wants the money I give him. Perhaps badly enough to keep him in line. What you said earlier is right. Men are unreliable in many things, but if there's one thing you can count on, it's their greed. Exciting chapter!
So exciting! We've got magic!
Magic! But before we get into all of that, we should do the epigraph. Might I be quite frank? Before you asked why I was so concerned, it is for the following reason.
That's annoying.
So annoying!
Like, actually, now you're taking the piss. I'm sorry. He's taking the piss. He's making a joke. Like, he's taking advantage. It's like, stop it now, Brandon. Like, we already deal with the mystery of the epigraph, but you're like, hey, here's a little bit, and nope. You're like, no. Oh.
Yeah. Did you have to cut that off right there?
It's like, please pay attention. Also, no. He had to cut it off because now we're really paying attention for this reason of why he's concerned. What are you concerned about? Oh, God. But yeah, there's not much I could say except, well, is this like trying to say this reason is where there's this chapter, the happenings that happen here are part of the reason? Is that a literary trick?
I have no clue. I think it's just, an A plot and a B plot kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, it was just annoying. That was my first reaction was, are you serious?
Yeah, mine too. Okay, where do we even start? The death rattles. Are they being possessed?
Yeah, it has this kind of sound of prophecy, like they're possessed by a certain thing that gives it sounds prophecy-like to me. But
here's
I
the
think,
thing.
Yeah.
Kaladin does not act perturbed by it. He obviously he's focusing on a buttload of other things, but he does not have a thought or an observation. There's no prose to suggest that what he just witnessed or any of the others just witnessed was out of the norm.
Yes, that's what I was wondering about. I was like, oh, okay, so everybody sees them. This is like normal spren. It's just pain spren and this and that, this kind of magical thing that just happens when people die. But then that makes me now wonder about the recording of death rattles and things like that and certain seconds and all of that. Because remember, I was thinking it's something sort of magical, some magic is involved in that you have to record this. You get a person's last thoughts, right?
Yeah.
I thought that there would be some sort of mechanism involved with that. But this literally seems like everybody just has one. And I say everybody because of those points you said, there's no reaction. It's quite normal. And then I just think of the practicality of like how are people recording people's last words and how accurate can they really be?
Yeah.
If that's how they're collected.
So much mystery.
And again, just a reminder that to the Shin, or I don't know how they say it, to Zeth's people, the words of a dying man, or the last words of a dying man, or last request is a sacred thing. So that reminds me of this aspect.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
Dun spheres.
Dun spheres. That's where we get even more magic.
So, obviously this is suggesting that Kaladin can do that storm-mancying stuff that Zeth could do in the requisite chapter, right?
Yes.
And he does it almost instinctually. There was a specific line where I think we see it happening. Let me pull up the line quickly. He bellowed the name aloud, uncertain why, as a wall of arrows zipped toward him. Kaladin felt a jolt of energy, a surge of sudden strength, unanticipated and unexplained. Is that him lashing the arrows away from him?
I don't think that I think there's something more to this magic than just the lashing, because having it surge in you is something that it can heal you and that sort of stuff.
True.
So I feel like this is pre-lashing.
Sure. And it's very quickly after that moment that the Parshendi hesitate, meaning I think they saw it happen and it confused them.
So you're thinking that it was that they know something?
Well, that's the thing. So I definitely think they saw something and it confused them. The question is whether or not they know what they saw. Now, I'm theorizing that the Parshendi know the Everstorm is coming and that they deliberately assassinated Gavilar, hoping to seed discontent and bad tidings before the Everstorm. I don't know if they're trying to actively usher in the end of the world or not, or what that situation is, but I do suspect. I mean, they knew enough to hire Zeth. Presumably, they knew what Zeth could do. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, I think they know.
Yeah, they know something. And you're right. I do feel like they wouldn't. I don't see how they wouldn't know what Zeth was doing. What Zeth could do. At least some of them. But then again, then you would go, okay, like, but these ordinary warriors, like the ones that are right there, would they be in the know about what's actually happening? Why they're doing what they're doing? I don't think the people on the ground know what they're doing. The leaders, on the other hand, are orchestrating this, I would say. The leaders of the Posh Indie I'm referring to. I don't know. Because I'm thinking of like a whole bunch of Posh Indie. It feels like that sort of secret would have gotten out if the whole army knew why they were doing this war.
Yeah.
Also, just the idea, the reason it was quite an interesting mechanism with the dun sphere versus the charge sphere, or whatever it's called, infused. The reason that an infused sphere is even valuable is because that just means that the gem is pure, or whatever it is. It is what it is.
It's a real sphere.
Yeah, it's a real sphere. So that's the only reason you would want something infused. Is it means that it's like having a certain carat gold. It's like, okay, this it's not more valuable if it's infused, but it's more reliable, more trustworthy if it's infused, because then you're like, oh, then this is a real gem. It's not just normal glass.
Right.
It's not counterfeit.
Right.
So it makes sense to me, because initially I was like, okay, fine. Infusion doesn't, having a glowing sphere doesn't make a difference in the value. And I was just taking my time, not understanding that. And then just in this exchange, this prose, you get that explanation. It's like, no, that is a real diamond, or whatever it is.
Right. Mm-hmm. So one thing I noted, Kaladin was struggling when he first got to the camp to understand why things were as they were with regard to the chrysalises and the status quo, why it was the way it was. And I had thought that his inability to figure those things out fed into the depression. It sounds in this chapter like it was the other way around, that it was his depression that prevented him from learning the things. So I don't know what to make of that, but I felt it was noteworthy.
Yeah, you've been speaking about how Brandon Sanderson writes depression, and that is part of it. He when you're depressed, you actually have no curiosity, no drive to even think beyond what really is necessary. And so it actually is quite interesting that flipped around. Well, that didn't flip, but like that you could actually see that now that he's changed his attitude, he is able to think further. It's great.
Yeah. And I'm glad he's able to figure out what the status quo is and why it is.
Yeah. Which is very much like him. That is very much recovered him. He's that kind of guy that is perceiving the situation. He's curious about the situation. He's a scientist.
Also, have I mentioned, Mr. Sanderson, how dare you tease the possibility of Dalinar and Kaladin meeting up in, the previous chapter?
Yes.
And then not give that to us.
Yeah. That was cruel. That was very cruel.
Yeah. But this is, by the way, back to the magic for a second. This is going to be expensive magic for a poor man.
Yep. Unless you go out in the storm, boy. Woo!
Storm blessed.
Yeah. Go and be blessed by the storm, and you can fully charge.
But
And
look, you can use other people's spheres. They
yeah,
aren't
just take.
looking.
Yeah, and also it seems like you can take it. You don't need to be like holding it, so
Holding
it's
it,
just not as
yeah.
near. So just oh no, but their money still stays valuable.
Yes. And I'll bet you anything, some of these fellow bridgemen will be contributing to the bribery fund.
Hmm. But yeah, obviously we're making the connection. Sorry, I'm just magic wise. We're making the connection that he's the reason that these spheres are becoming done a lot quicker because he's using list. It's like Vin using tiny bits of metal from the water.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like it's a long way off from him understanding that it's him.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
obviously have that, but the dramatic irony is quite strong.
Very
And
much
yes,
so.
that brings us into the other bridgemen are actually starting, in spite of themselves, to care as well.
Yep. Which Kaladin does all the right things this chapter to earn some respect. And good on the bridgemen.
Mhm.
Do you think Gaz is gonna try and kill Kaladin in some way?
At some point, it should happen. Yeah, I don't think he's going to stand for it that long. I don't know how much money he's really how valuable this money is to him, the amount that he's getting from Kaladin for him to put up with this. But he is scared of him. Quite a scary guy.
Yeah.
That helped.
Can we talk for a little bit about new sentience? I don't remember if I've brought it up before or not. But Syl is obviously going through her bout of new sentience.
Mm-hmm.
And the Parshendi are Parshmen who can think. They seem to be relatively new to being sentient beings.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, and just there is definitely something very interesting to me about that. What a neat and interesting and imaginative topic to write about, especially in a society in which sentience is and has existed for generations. I like that quite a lot. I'm wondering what other deep literary elements are involved that in this. What do you think, Kite?
I am curious as to what I need a Parshman's POV, or I don't know what
I
lives
agree.
in like. So I don't know. I don't know if that's just ignorance on a Alethi or human side, where it's just like we don't know. Well, we consider them stupid. It's like like remember Ellen when Ellen first was like, oh, you've spoken to Scar. Are they normal?
Oh
Kind of
yeah.
thing. Yeah. So I'm wondering, but I see the connection between a character or a certain kind of race learning or being granted sentience and the ability to think is that is a very interesting topic.
Yeah. And Kaladin in this chapter still finds the distinction between a Parshman and a Parshendi to be incongruent, which is something that Shallan had thought as well.
Yeah, this that they're just what I want to know is the origin. So what made them change? What made this different? These two different groups.
Yeah.
The history of it will be rich. I do also just love how innocent Syl was with the joke with
Oh,
the love potion thing. It's just
I
like
loved that moment.
she's like that'll work, right? That makes sense. And you're like, she's still innocent. Yeah, she's learning a lot, and I think even that last line about what good or spheres aren't something to rely on. It's like actually he literally just relied upon that to
Yeah.
keep going. Yeah.
Speaking of which, can we talk about Syl and the Spren and her saying that the Spren are, for all intents and purposes, one being?
Yeah. That doesn't make sense to me. It's not remarked upon by Kaladin that yeah, that's weird, a weird way to think of it. It seems like that's actually true. If they considered that. Are you hearing like hive mind?
I don't know. Because she talks about animals acting alike, and obviously not all animals are hive mind creatures, but
Mhm.
they are all instinctual in their behavior and mannerisms.
But they're not one mind. They're not one being. If you're one being, then you're one mind.
Yeah.
She does say the way that it is worded is virtually the same individual. So it's not the same being, the same individual. Maybe it's instead of like I was thinking being, when you say same individual, maybe it you could mean the same individual motivations, same individual instincts. It's not as egregious as when I thought she was saying we're the same being.
Gotcha.
It's vague enough for me, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Like they each have their own thoughts, but they are each
Mhm.
thinking the exact same thing.
It's the same as like, oh, all men are the same. That sort of saying. Um, or like, oh, cats are all a certain way. That's as close as she means that. You know what I'm saying?
Cats are lithe, dogs are loyal, rats are adorable.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly. Yeah. So it when she's and especially also that word virtually also just softens it a bit for me. So it's not that bad, but still, yeah, still is definitely proof that spring are not all alike.
Yes. But then again, that continues into this idea of new sentience
Mm-hmm.
and waking up, being born, individualness, being an
Soul
individuality, soul.
individuality, yeah.
Interesting. There's something there, but I feel like we need more before we can really hone in on what it is.
I've also wanted you to comment on. Yay, you get to see Kaladin surgeoning. Um, I, I, I
Yes.
I do hope that he gets seen surgeoning, and therefore is shown to be valuable, and then he gets out of the bridge crew. But he's still got lots to do in the bridge crew.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of at a point where I feel like if he's given the opportunity to get out of the bridge crew, he's not going to take it, which would be insane, but
Yeah, I'm with you on
yeah,
that.
I feel like he's pretty much set now on helping these specific people.
Yeah, it's not just oh well, it helps him out, and that's why he's doing it. It's like no, was his decision. He would be abandoning them. He would have to be forcibly
Exactly.
taken. Yeah.
Could you imagine Sadius? I mean, first off, I don't know how supportive Sadius is going to be of this. I don't know how much notoriety is too much notoriety here, but I feel like it's not going to go over well when Kaladin is like, I'm not leaving these guys. Either, like, if you're going to move me somewhere else, I'm taking them with me.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't think I'm with you on that. And as in Sadius would not be impressed. I don't think he's that kind of guy. When it's Dalinar, maybe.
Very
It
much
is a
so.
form of a thing. I do wonder who that soldier is. That if it is it just an unnamed character, or if that soldier that has actually gone and just having a thought about
Because,
what Kaladin has said. Who is that soldier?
yeah, because there's no way it's Adolin or Renarin or one of Dalinar's
Yeah.
people.
They were wearing shard plate and all of that, so it would be noted. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it is a net positive that the soldier notes it, though.
Yeah.
In
It's
spite of what I
expected.
said about notoriety.
Yeah. But you can see the sparks of it, how it happens. There's this one guy that just stands out because he's standing when he's supposed to be collapsed. He's doing things that are completely different. And then people start following and doing the same as him. So, look, they haven't started standing yet, and that's because they don't have the magic, I suppose. They are starting to help each other, and geez, I was so excited that I was like, put them on the bridge, put the wounded on top of the bridge, and and take them. That's how you should do it. And then they did it. I was like, oh
And that's going to be all well and good for a day or two until another bridge run comes and they're too ill to do it.
exactly.
Therefore, they get killed for not going on it.
Yeah. I don't understand. I don't know the logistics of what they're expecting. What are they going to hide them? Yeah, I'm with you on that because it's like they're supposed to be gone. They're supposed to be. Nobody is going to take care of them. So I feel
Yep.
like, oof, there is potential for that to really blow up in Kaladin's face, and because he's not comfortable with losing people. He said, his dad said that you get used to the shock of losing a patient. Kind of it gets lessened with time. He's never gotten used to it. He's
Yep.
different. Yeah.
He's a very sensitive boy.
Mm-hmm. But he's also strong.
Yes. He's also very smart.
Mm-hmm. I like Kaladin.
Me too. He takes the death point. Admirable.
Oh, yeah. Jeez, even more. Yeah. Very Kaladin. And also another standy outy thing for his crew, the bridge crew. Like, look, he's not just talk. He's not just, oh, I'm leading you because it's cool. No, he actually puts himself in harm's way for you. So it's quite hard not to respect him.
Yep. And he keeps shouting, "You will not die."
Yeah, to his patients. What did you think about, speaking of shouting, he shouts his brother's name.
Yes. I mean, I think, first off, I love it. Oh, poor Tien. I think his connection to Tien is part of what helps him channel this magic that he has, that he doesn't know he has.
Yeah. And it goes back to how Tien would make him feel better just by being around. So that kind of psychological mechanism being involved in the magic, I think that makes sense. I love it.
Yep. Soul casting. He wants to see, or he's curious about soul casting, but that's kept under strict guard. Only the Ardents and important people can see it happening because it's a holy rite.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And we've that made me think back to when we saw it being done. It was very cool. So now that makes me also think, okay, how the hell is Shalorn gonna steal this thing? It's just reminding us that it's not easy at all. It's not a case of just, oh, somebody left this hammer lying around, I'll pick it up and take it. It's not like that.
Anything else to say?
Nope. Good.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to that darn Kita if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. And we'll see you next whack. Okay, thanks, bye.